The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday, February 24th. It is a little early, I know. Sorry, Robert. Seem to have woken Robert up. But yes, I have a class to teach. Mondays is always early, or at least early as long as I'm teaching this class. So I've got a class to teach on finance for the Ayn Rand University. And then tonight at 7 p.m. East Coast time, we've got Ben Baer coming on the show. We're going to talk about religion. We're both converting. I'm kidding. So we're going to talk about religion, its impact on the world, everything you wanted to know about how religion is playing out in the world today. So join us. Join us tonight, 7 p.m. with Ben Baer from the Ayn Rand Institute, philosopher. All right, it's going to be a short show today. I'm going to go pretty fast, I think, because I need to prepare for my class. I just bought an Apple Pencil. It arrived today, just before this show started, and I'm trying to get it to work on my iPad, and it's not working. It's not connecting. Bluetooth is not seeing the Apple Pencil, which is frustrating because I need it for class today, and it's not there. So if anybody knows anything about Apple Pencil, the Apple Pencil 2, the one with the USB-C, then let me know if you have. I tried. I just connected it with the magnet. Nothing happens. It connects to the magnet. It clicks with the magnet, and nothing happens on the iPad. Nothing. Frustrating. I've restarted the iPad. I've turned Bluetooth on and off. Bluetooth is working fine with other stuff. Is it charged? I don't know. How do you tell if a Pencil 2 is charged or not? Anyway, I'm charging it right now. I've actually put it into the USB-C socket in my iPad, and in the Pencil has a USB socket. Hopefully that'll charge it faster. But I was told it only needs to be charged 1 minute, and already the iPad will see it, and that is not happening. Anyway, that is my frustration. Still doesn't see it. It's been charging forever, and it doesn't see it. All right. If you have advice, let me know. Yeah, Bluetooth sees everything else, every other device in my condo except the Pencil. I have an iPad Air 5th generation. It's compatible. It's supposed to be compatible. You're on trying to connect the Pencil to the iPad, yes, and not being successful. I've asked ChatGPT. It tells me what to do, and it still doesn't connect. God, I'm going to have to send it back to Apple or something. I don't know. They send the crappy pencils to Puerto Rico. Anyway, we should get it with the news because that's what you're here for. You're not here to hear me bitch and complain about not being able to connect. We're going to talk about German elections. We're going to talk about updates on what's going on in Ukraine. Rand has exactly the same combo. And does it work for you? Why is it not working for me? Ukraine, we'll talk about Ukraine and Trump. We'll talk about the latest from Elon Musk and DOGE. Latest on the budget, latest on the Pentagon, and then we'll end with an uplifting. I want to show you the acceptance speech of Timothée Chalamet. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. Timothée Chalamet, I think it'll inspire you. I think it was pretty good. I think it was really good. Unusual for a Hollywood actor to say what he said. So I'm going to show you that, and hopefully you'll be inspired. All right, so let's get going. German election. Swipe left on the iPad to see iPad and Pencil charge state. Left on the iPad. I don't even know what that means. Swipe left on the iPad. I swipe left on the iPad, the camera opens up. Yeah, yeah. We should go on because this is not working. Am I swiping? I see nothing when I swipe. I guess left depends on the configuration of the iPad. Swipe right. I've swiped left. I've swiped right. I see nothing. All right. German election yesterday. No surprises, really. No surprises. The center-right political party won the most votes. It got 28.6%, a little less than what I think what the polls were suggesting, 29, maybe even 30. So, but it's certainly within the range of what the polls were expecting. Generally, the election was very much within the range of what the polls were expecting and what the pundits were expecting. So, the center-right Conservative Alliance will be assigned to form the next government. There's no question about that. The far right, or the right-wing Alternative for Germany, Elon Musk's favored political party, came in second, which is pretty stunning for Germany, and it's the first time that's ever happened that a political party to the right of the center-right has done that well. And they got 20.8%. Again, a little above expectations. Expectations were about 20, so maybe they outperformed. But they were a little disappointed because they hoped that Elon Musk's endorsement and advocacy on X and everywhere else would maybe get them even higher. And maybe, I think there were some people within the party some people within the party were hoping to be the majority party and actually be in a position to form the next government, but that did not happen. The Social Democrats, the center-left political party, they had their worst result. I read somewhere since 1880, but here it says since World War II, so I don't know. But the worst result in a very long time. Where they got 16.4%. The Greens, this is primarily an environmentalist, again left of center, got 11.6. I guess if you combine the Greens and the Social Democrats, that's 28%. So it's right on the heels of the center right. They're almost there. Friedrich Merz is the leader of the Conservative Alliance, and he will be the one to be assigned to form the next government. He will be probably, most likely, the next prime minister of Germany. He will have to cut a deal with the Social Democrats. That's his only. He's not gonna. He said he will not form a coalition with the AfD. So he is going to have to cut a deal with the Social Democrats. The Conservative Alliance and the Social Democrats are basically being partners in government for much of German post-World War II history. The good news is they do not need the Greens for this coalition. They will have a majority without the Greens. So in that sense, the negotiations to forming the government are going to be much easier. Hope is that there'll be a new government in place by Easter. Notice how long it takes them to negotiate all these things. Who gets which minister? What is going to be part of the platform of the government? That's European parliamentary elections. That's how it works. That's what happens when no political party gets more than 50%. A number of political parties were kind of wiped out. They didn't even get the 5% threshold that you're required in order to get representation in the parliament. That is true of the Free Democrats. The Free Democrats are a centrist, pro-business, pro-markets to some extent. Political party, not really, but as close as you can get in Germany to having somebody pro-markets. They got below 5%, and so did the far left BSW. This is interesting. The BSW, named after a woman whose name I cannot pronounce, did not reach the 5%. They looked like they were going to be a rising force in German politics, but they failed. I think maybe because of Trump's stabbing in the back of Ukraine might have done this. The BSW was very pro-Russia. And maybe some people thought they would vote for them anyway. But I think once Trump did what he did with Ukraine, I think people moved away from DSW. And instead, they voted for another far-left political party in Germany called the Left. Just straight the Left. That's great when they just name it the Left. That's a good name. And the Left is pro-Ukraine, anti-military buildup for Germany, and very leftist. And they got the votes, I think, that BSW lost. So you've got a leftist party way out there. You've got a big right-wing party that's going to be in opposition. And then you'll have the Greens in the opposition. And that's basically it. That's German politics. We will see the one thing that kind of is probably going to be a theme in this new government. Now, how the center right manages to move the center left in this direction, we will see. But there will definitely be a tightening of immigration concerns. There will be rising voices about some increasing deportation, increasing security in German cities, combating in one way or another the Islamist threat that clearly exists in Germany. And I think the center-right party is definitely dedicated and interested in doing this. But the question is going to be, are they now center-left political party that's going to be an ally in a coalition government? How far will they go? But we will see. AfD basically dominated Eastern Germany. So East Germany that was communist, basically all of East Germany, with the exception of Berlin, gave the largest share of the vote to the AfD. So East Germany, you think they hate the communists, so they went with you could call them proto-fascist or leaning in that direction anyway, pro-Russia. AfD came out very strongly pro-Russia and pro-Putin in the final days of the campaign. Eastern Germany was very pro-Russia, very surprising in many respects. These are the people that actually suffered the most under Russian occupation, under the Soviet Union. East Germany also, the one part of East Germany that did not go to the AfD was Berlin. Berlin is not kind of right-wing. In Berlin, the largest force in Berlin was the Left Party, the basically communist party. So it's really interesting that the Germans in East Germany have internalized, in a sense, authoritarianism as the thing they're for, in spite of living so many decades under authoritarianism and celebrating its demise when it did. And yet there's something in them that really strives for this. I mean, 39%, 38.6 in some places, 32.5 in others, but well into the 30% voted for AfD. In Berlin, basically this Communist Party, or as close to communism as you'd get in Germany, got 19.9%, the biggest showing anywhere else. The rest of Germany is basically center-right, center-left, but basically in the center. Some pockets of strong support for the environmentalists, the Greens. The other big issue is the center-right is going to want to restart their nuclear power plants. They've already, Merz, the leader of the center-right party, has already said that he is going to stop the decommissioning, the dismantling of the nuclear power plants. That's the first step to recommissioning them, actually getting them started. The Social Democrats are not going to want that, so that'll be another issue that they're going to have to resolve between them. And then, of course, the biggest issue Germany faces, the two big issues Germany faces. One is the economy is really struggling. They're going into a third year of recession. Their industrial base is being decimated. Revamping the German economy is going to be difficult, and whether the center left and center right can come together to do something, hard to really tell. They're going to have massive deregulation, really changing the focus, and find ways to lower energy costs. And the biggest way there is to bring back nuclear power and to double up on LNG, liquefied natural gas. So we will see if they want that. Merz, according to all the surveys and all the exit polls, basically won on two issues: immigration, where he said he would be a lot tougher than the previous government, a lot, and that was the number one concern Germans had going into the election. And secondly, the state of the economy, where it's going to be very difficult for him. It's going to be very difficult for him to deliver, but hopefully he can. What he needs is massive deregulation across all sectors of the German economy. It requires a lot less government management, a lot less central planning, and we'll see. One of the challenges that the current government has, and Germany has long term, is that the Christian Democrats won primarily among older voters. But if you look at the 18 to 24 were much more interested in the AfD on the one hand, and on the Socialist Communist Party, the left, on the other hand. Those two got a significant share of the votes. And indeed, the left became a big deal when its leader, Heidi something or other, went on TikTok and gave these fiery speeches. So she rallied young people. So young people like ideological, the ideological extremes, which are much more similar in the end than what anybody would believe. But yes, that's where it's going. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. The Social Democrats are going to replace its leadership. The Scholz, who was the prime minister up until now, is going to basically leave. The defense minister, Boris Pistorius, is Germany's most popular politician, and he will probably become the leader of the SPD, and I'm sure play a big role in the coming government. So it's going to be interesting, the negotiations. But all of this is happening in the shadow of Trump's, clearly stating his wish to kind of retreat from NATO, retreat from Europe, less engagement with NATO, and clearly everything he said about Ukraine. And this is the biggest challenge the German government places right now, probably bigger than the economy. What do? Because they're going to have to act fast. And of course, they can't act fast because they don't really have a government. There's a caretaker government. They're going to have to cobble something together in the meantime. And it's not clear how and if they can do that. Merz, who has been in the past a big Trump fan, if you will, has been at the forefront of, he thought he would come in and have a great relationship with Trump and all of that. He is now saying that he has no illusions about Trump and that he realizes that Europe needs to figure out how to be independent of the United States. He said he realizes now that it's clear that Trump no longer cares about the fate of Europe. It's unclear whether he will still speak of NATO in present terms. That is, it's not clear that NATO exists anymore, according to the new incoming Prime Minister of Germany. And he says by the time the June summit arrives, this is the NATO summit, will there be NATO? It's not clear at all that there will be, and he is talking about the need for Europe to come up with an alternative. This is a theme running through what is going on today, yesterday, over the weekend in Europe. Leader after leader after leader is emphasizing the need for something new in Europe, for a new realignment, for Europe to take on a lot more responsibility. Merz went on to say in, I think, a different interview, quote, Europe may need its own military alliance instead of NATO. Germany can no longer rely on the protection of the nuclear umbrella of the American military. So this is huge. For a German leader to say we cannot rely on the nuclear umbrella of the American military, that is huge. That is complete reshaping of the geopolitics in the European sector. And we'll see if Europe steps up to the bat, if they're willing to take on the responsibility of providing for their own security. That's what's necessary. That's what's needed. That's what they should be doing. We'll see if they actually do it. It's going to be an interesting few weeks as all this shapes up. So far, Merz looks good. But again, the challenges of the economy and in the U.S. and dealing with Trump are going to be massive and much bigger than what I think he expected they would be just a few weeks ago. Just a few weeks ago, he thought at least the relationship with the U.S. would be solid. And now there is none. All right, let's talk about a little bit more about Ukraine. Indeed, as we speak, there is a big summit in Ukraine. Today is, after all, the third anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and there's a big summit in Ukraine, a summit that includes many of the European leaders, many heads of state are there, and they are talking as we see, and some of their speeches are quite inspiring. Now we'll see if they can live up to these speeches, but certainly, the president of Finland said in his speech, it's not Russia who decides on EU membership. It's the European Union who does that. It's not Russia that decides on NATO membership. It is the alliance itself. It is not Russia that decides on what Ukraine has by its border, when, where, and how. It's not Russia that decides on European security arrangements. We already have a European security order and should stick to it. And he committed to staying by the side and supporting Ukraine. The Prime Minister of Denmark was very strong in her comments about Denmark's committed to European security and to bolstering defense and to doing what's necessary. She acknowledged what's going on with Trump and made it clear that if Europe could not rely on NATO, then Europe would have to find its own security arrangements and deal with it. There's going to be a summit, I think on March 9th, of European leaders to figure out next steps in terms of moving towards this independence from the United States. Independence from the United States. Zelensky gave a speech at this thing, which was again quite good. He emphasized that the war is against Ukraine, and therefore Ukraine has to be at the negotiating table. You can't cut a peace deal about Ukraine, where Russian troops are in Ukraine, and Ukraine has no say in it. He also said peace can't be declared or announced. It has to be built. No one trusts Russia. So if you can have peace with Russia, trust needs to be reestablished, and that has to be done in baby steps. And the first he suggested was an exchange of all prisoners. And he also said that Europe should be at the negotiating table as well. So it shouldn't be just Ukraine. It shouldn't be just Americans and the Russians talking, but Europe, who has put more money into Ukraine than the United States, should be at that negotiating table. He also then advocated for Ukrainian membership in the EU and Ukrainian membership in NATO. And he said, if it's impossible for Ukraine to join NATO, then let's build an alternative to NATO where Ukraine is a member. So anyway, that was Zelensky. Over the weekend, Zelensky refused to sign the latest Trump rare earth deal. Even though American officials keep saying the pact is close, that they're negotiating, and they're very close, Zelensky refuses to sign it. He refuses to sign it without security guarantees. The United States basically wants $500 billion worth of income from Ukraine, from its natural resources, including oil and natural gas, but is not willing to provide really anything looking into the future for that. Zelensky just says no. So again, Zelensky proving to be one of the few leaders out there, certainly braver than any American leader that I see, actually telling Trump, no, not doing it. You know, the one thing that could save the United States from complete humiliation by, capitulating completely to the Kremlin, to Putin, is Putin. While Trump wants a quick end to the war, he wants to get this over with and get a quick deal done, the Russians are in no hurry. He knows what he wants. He says it's going to take time, and he's not ready to give to commit right now to peace. For Putin, the very fact that Trump wants to negotiate is a victory. He's already won. It's a break with the isolation that was imposed on Moscow by the Biden administration and by the Europeans. The Russians don't want a ceasefire. They want to keep grinding on with the hope of capturing some key strategic positions within Ukraine. They are delusional in terms of, Putin doesn't want to present it to his people like he wants some real success and be able to say that he won this. And he says he's not going to compromise. That's the other thing Putin's saying. I mean, Putin's a good negotiator, right? He's not going to compromise. He says the root cause of this conflict is what he calls a Nazification of Ukraine. And that means complete replacement of the Ukrainian regime. And without the replacement of the Ukrainian regime and a replacement basically with a puppet, a Moscow-loving puppet government in Kiev, he's not interested in the peace negotiations. That's how you negotiate. You start with the most extreme position, and you work down from there, not the other way around by giving your opponent everything he wants before you even start negotiating. Witkoff, who is one of the emissaries going, Kellogg, nobody, obviously the Trump administration doesn't trust Kellogg. He's too pro-Ukraine. So they've sent Witkoff over. Witkoff did a good job twisting Netanyahu's hand to get the ceasefire deal. So they're sending Witkoff to negotiate with Russia. Witkoff basically said that the guidepost for the negotiation between Russia and Ukraine is a deal that was on the table in Turkey in early 2022. It's called the Istanbul Protocols. But the 2022 Istanbul Protocols basically constituted a full Ukrainian surrender to Russia. They constituted giving Russia everything that it wanted, including the replacement of the regime on top, and including the permanent, the permanence of the Russian annexation of big chunks of Ukraine. Again, not something Ukraine is going to want to agree to. They might not have a choice in the end, but not something they want to agree to. And yet that is, again, the American position starts. It starts. They go to the negotiating table with everything that Russia wanted. What's there to negotiate? Just surrender. Just bring up a white flag and we're done. I think that's a lot easier. Anyway, over the weekend, U.S. and Ukraine just kept on fighting. Nothing good came out of it. We'll see where this minerals deal goes, but it, again, doesn't look promising at all. Over the weekend, Elon Musk basically sent out an email to all government employees saying, look, by the end of the day, Monday, I want a list of 5 things you did last week, 5 achievements, 5 productive things that were achieved by you last week in your job. If you don't send such an email, you're fired. Again, very strategic approach to letting people go, right? You're strategically letting people go that you want to let go, in the departments you want to let go, in the places you want to let go. This is a little nuts. And again, but it's consistent with his approach, which is create chaos and havoc and uncertainty and just shrink the government no matter who you're shrinking. We'll figure it out. We'll fix it later. Just break as much stuff as you can. We'll fix it later. Right? Department of Defense came out saying, employees of the Department of Defense, you don't need to reply to Elon Musk's email. We manage you. We'll decide who gets fired and who's not. The FBI came out and said, FBI agents, stop. You don't have to reply to Elon Musk's email. And who knows how many other agencies out there did the same thing. Basically, told Elon Musk, no, this is not happening. And basically declined to participate in this, if you will, in the charade. So some government officials are willing to stand up to Musk and say, no, my people are not doing this. But many others, of course, are succumbing, and Musk is leading this effort to fire, almost at random, to fire government employees. Yeah, I mean, we will see what happens tonight. 5 o'clock, I think, Eastern time. That's another 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. And at that point, we'll know whether how many people didn't reply to the email, and therefore how many people are fired, and where those are, and and everything else. So, to be determined, I guess. We will find out soon enough the status of government employees in more of these government employees. All right. That is DOGE. I did want to say, Elon Musk tweeted this morning, I guess at 6:38 a.m., not sure what time zone that was on. Those who do not take this email seriously will soon be furthering their careers elsewhere. I mean, again, this is strategic hiring and strategic firing. Base it on people's compliance to an email. Yeah, we will see how this all plays out in the weeks, months to come. But it would be great to cut massive numbers of government employees, and to do it thoughtfully and strategically, and to figure out which governments you're going to shut down, like education and commerce and energy, and probably 5, 6, 7 departments should be gone, unnecessary, unneeded, and most of the employees should be done. Now, to do that properly, you need to pass legislation in Congress, and then you need to completely cut their budgets and eliminate them, and then require the heads of those departments to fire as many people as possible, and to reorient their activities towards whatever Congress has approved them to continue doing, or to shut the department down. But no, that's not how stuff is done in the Trump administration. Just if you don't answer an email, then it's all over. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? I want to talk about the budget quickly. I mean, it's becoming very, very difficult to actually for Congress to actually pass a budget. The conflicting special interest groups, the conflict between the House and the Senate, it's just making any kind of budget that cuts government spending in any significant way or in any really way. It's making it really impossible, and so far it just is not happening. There's no strategy. The House and Senate cannot agree, and they're looking at contingency plans. They'll go back to funding, raising the debt limit and funding little chunks, little pieces of the budget. But this is all welfare. Yeah, this is great, Wonder Freeman. It's welfare state drama. There are too many special interest groups with too many fingers in this, too many things to lose, because remember, government budgeting is zero sum, that nobody can agree on what's actually going to be cut. How are we going to fund individual agencies? How are we going to fund individual programs? Which one will be cut? Because we want to cut, but nobody can agree what to cut. In the House, where there's a push to cut Medicare spending, Medicaid, not Medicare, Medicaid spending. This is the health program for the poor, people who can't afford Obamacare, I guess, who can't afford insurance. They get Medicaid. It's a government program worked through the states. The problem is that a lot of Republicans were elected in districts with low-income people. And the thing that's happened over the last few elections, but particularly this last election, is Republicans are now the party of the poor. The reality is that the Republican president, the Trump, won the poorest third of the electorate. And he's the first Republican to do that since the 1960s. So the Republican Party is now the party of the poor. And as the party of the poor, how can they cut a program from which the poor benefit from? Indeed, 11 Republicans, remember, they have a very, very small margin in the House. They can't lose, I think, more than 2 or 3. So 11 Republicans in competitive seats represent large Medicaid populations. Collectively, in those 11 Republican districts, 2.7 million people receive Medicaid. They don't want Medicaid cuts. They don't want to lose their election. And yet, Republicans won by such a small margin. This is the big mandate that Trump got. They won by such a small margin that they need every single Republican to vote for it. Democrats are not going to vote for it. Now, they might come up with some continued resolution where they can get the Democrats to vote with them. Nobody's going to be happy about that. And I'm not sure the Democrats are going to help them. So this is going to be fun to watch. So we've got March 14th is the cliff. I think government shutdown, debt limit, the debt, you can't, they have to raise a debt limit by then. This is because they couldn't come to an agreement, if you remember, in November or December. So, yeah. And they can't decide. This is what happens when you're running a statist agenda. You're running on a premise that is with no strategy, and you're running a campaign basically appeasing different special interest groups, and nothing more than that. Anybody who thought that Trump would somehow be different doesn't look like it. Looks exactly the same as all other mixed economy statist, presidents and political parties. All right. Oh, Pentagon. Yes, Trump, Hegseth on Friday, I think it was. They both Hegseth and Trump. Basically restructured the Pentagon. They fired the Joint Chief of Staff, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, They fired a couple of other four-star generals, four-star generals, I think, and a number of other, and quite a few other political appointees. And a lot of it was targeting DEI. The idea was that these were DEI appointments. The Joint Chief of Staff, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who was fired, is black. The Chief of Naval Operations was a woman. They fired another four other, significant officers in the Joint Chiefs. Trump can fire at will. He can fire anybody in the military at will. He is the commander-in-chief, so he has that ability and he has that authority. He did say some nice things about the outgoing chairman of the Joint Chief, but appointed, his guy. His guy is a guy who basically is a retired three-star general. It's very unusual for a three-star general to become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but he is. This is a guy who wore his MAGA hat, or put on his MAGA hat, in spite of that being against regulations when he first met Trump. He's a guy who said, literally, I'm your guy, I will kill for you. So Trump basically appointed him to a large extent. Dan Raisin Kane. He appointed him because he's loyal, because he's his guy, because he's a Trump loyalist. He lacks command experience, the kind of command experience that a chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff usually has. He has done, he's done very little in the Pacific, which is China, which is the region most important at this point. People speak highly of him as a commanding officer. The question here is he being appointed because his skill, his strategic skill, his strategic abilities, his vision for the U.S. military, his perspective, his knowledge of China, his knowledge of Russia, his ability to contend with our enemies, and having a strategy and a vision on how to do that, and his ability to command, command the kind of size of military that we have today, or is he being appointed because he is a Trump acolyte? The same is true of whoever's going to replace the command of the Navy. The Navy is today too small, one could argue, given China. I'm not sure, because Navy needs to be a lot more technologically advanced. It's less important how big it is, and more important how technologically advanced and how many drones they have. But again, will the new person who comes in, be somebody of the caliber who can really put this together, really have a strategy on how to confront China in the Pacific? That is really the bottom line. And it's not clear. It's just not clear. That is the depressing part, is we now have a president who you cannot trust what he does to be done in the name of American self-interest rather than the name of his own, if you will, power lust. All right, finally, a positive. Okay, so yesterday, over the weekend, I don't know if it was yesterday. Over the weekend, there were SAG Awards. I don't know much about the SAG Awards. I think they're industry awards, right? They're provided by, whoops, I don't want to do that.
And the actor goes to?
I don't want to do that. I wanted to skip this. Yeah, okay. I wanted to do that. So the SAG Awards, I think it's the industry awards, Timothée Chalamet won it for portraying Bob Dylan in the Bob Dylan drama. I guess it's a movie, which I'm looking forward to watch. We talked about this yesterday, I think. Anyway, I thought this speech, it's short, It's less than 2 minutes. It's really short, but I thought it was quite refreshing and actually quite good. And so I thought I would refreshing in what he says. So I'm eager to show it to you and see what you think. So here it is. Let's see. There it is. There's the screen. He's just being announced. He's coming up on stage, and we'll hear what he has to say.
Oh boy. No, I raised this up. Guess I'm just gonna talk low. I don't know how to get this up. All right, well, thank you. I was not expecting this at all. Truly. I'll start by thanking my mother, who I'm here with tonight. She has been working at Actors Equity for 40 years, the stage union. And I'll quickly run through this. You know, I know the classiest thing would be to downplay the effort that went into this role and how much this means to me, but the truth is this was 5.5 years of my life. I poured everything I had into playing this incomparable artist, Mr. Bob Dylan, a true American hero, and it was the honor of a lifetime playing him.
I mean, think about that. He says the honorable thing to do is downplay, but he's not going to downplay. He's going to say, I worked hard for this. I devoted 5.5 years to this. I really worked my butt off for this. That's kind of refreshing. They're usually so humble.
It's an honor I share with Monica, Elle, Edward, the entire cast, who in a genre doing a biopic that could be perhaps tired. Everyone gave it their all. So I'm deeply grateful to them. And lastly, I can't downplay the significance of this award because it means the most to me. And I know we're in a subjective business, but the truth is I'm really in pursuit of greatness. I know people don't usually talk like that, but I want to be one of the greats. I'm inspired by the greats. I'm inspired by the greats here tonight. I'm as inspired by Daniel Day-Lewis, Marlon Brando, and Viola Davis as I am by Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps, and I want to be up there. So I'm deeply grateful to that. This doesn't signify that, but it's a little more fuel, it's a little more ammo to keep going. Thank you so much.
And
I think that's great. I mean, he wants to be great. And he's saying he wants to be great. Note that he has to apologize beforehand. He has to say, I know people don't talk like this, but I want to be great. I want to be like Marlon Brando. I want to be like Michael Phelps. I want to be like LeBron James. I want to be great at what I do. And I'm going to apologize for that. And this is one small stepping stone for me towards me being great. That's ambition. That is, that is somebody standing up for himself. That's self-esteem. Again, I don't know what his philosophy is. I don't know what his politics is. I don't really care at this point. I just think that this is the kind of self-esteem we need people to have. This is the kind of ambition we need people to have. A culture of ambition, a culture of self-esteem is a culture that ultimately will embrace liberty and freedom. You can't do the other way around. You can't have a culture of low self-esteem with no ambition embrace freedom. It won't happen, and it won't last if it does. That's one of the reasons you can't impose freedom from the top. You need a culture that demands it, and a culture that demands it is a culture of self-esteem. So I love to see somebody say, I want to be great, and somebody compare it. Like, the only realm in life, in our lives, where you're allowed to claim greatness and allowed to aspire to greatness, the only one, is sports. It's great to see somebody not in sports saying, I want to be like those sports guys. I want to be as great as they are. And I want that to be recognized. So I thought it was terrific. This was sent to me, a video of this. So I thought I would share it with you because I think it's really, really cool. All right. My pencil is still not come up. Nothing I do seems to make it work. So I don't know. Don't know what the deal is. All right, I'll have to return it to Apple and get a new one. Doesn't help me today for the class. All right, what else do we want to talk about? Yes, we want to do your super chat. So let's jump to that. I'm not going to cover my sponsors today, just because I don't have time, we just I have to get this class done. But I did want to try to get a show in today. I'll just remind you to ask questions in the super chat. I'll remind you that we need to reach our goal, $250 at least, or $500 ideally, given that we're going to make it into the second hour, or somewhere in between there. So please consider doing questions. But if you do a bunch of questions now, make them $20 questions, $50 questions, $100 questions. Make them count, because the reality is that I just don't have the time to answer a whole bunch of $5 questions right now. You can also do a sticker. Thank you, Jeremy, for the sticker. Thank you, Colt. Yeah, you can do a sticker for however amount you want. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Stevens. Thank you, Robert. All right, let's jump off with questions. Remo, I think you once said you knew Don Valentine. Can you share with us an anecdote? I don't really have an anecdote. I mean, I'm not sure what to share with you exactly. I mean, Don Valentine was one of the founders of Silicon Valley, one of the legendary venture capitalists. I met him towards the end of his life, and as he was phasing out of Sequoia Capital, I used to go up there and meet with him, and it's like he just wanted to talk, and we'd sit and chat for two hours easily. I always thought he would be super busy and kick me out, and he wanted to talk. So we did that, and it was a blast, because he always had stories, right? I mean, he would talk about dinners at Steve Jobs' home, and he was very anti-left. He loved Ayn Rand. He was a huge Ayn Rand fan. He was very anti the left, but he told stories about Obama coming to visit Steve Jobs and being there at the dinner. He knew Steve Jobs really well. He was the first real venture capital check that Steve Jobs got. What else did he do? He told me about Zappos. Told me the story of Zappos, the shoe company that Sequoia funded and then sold to Amazon in negotiation with Amazon. So he talked a lot about Jeff Bezos and what kind of man Jeff Bezos was. I mean, he hugely admired Jobs and Bezos and entrepreneurs like that. He was a really, really good guy, and people were terrified of him. I mean, he was a real terror of Silicon Valley. I mean, you went to pitch to Don Valentine, you were scared. It was scary stuff. And he was just super nice to me. That is, it was amazing, and it was great to get to know him, and it was great to have that experience. He was a contributor at the Ayn Rand Institute for several years. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more than that to say. So, extraordinary person. I was honored and that I got an opportunity to meet with him and kind of hang out with him. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Remo. Esoteric Economy, thank you for the sticker. Mary Eileen, thank you for the sticker. Michael, did the American sense of life get manipulated into being channeled towards Trump, or has the American sense of life morphed completely into fear and fascism? I think it's morphed. I don't think it was manipulated. I think that it was too attached to religion. It was too decimated by 9/11, and by the financial crisis. The 9/11, the financial crisis, basically decimated the American self-esteem, the confidence in America, confidence in capitalism, confidence in our military strength, confidence in our ability to handle what the world throws at us. And I think Trump leveraged that. So 9/11 and the financial crisis created the fear that Donald Trump capitalized on. in 2016, and that fear has only grown since then as we have been even weaker and weaker and weaker. Rand says, Yaron, connect your Apple Pencil via USB-C cable with your iPad. I have. It's connected right now, just like that. And it doesn't appear anyway. It just doesn't show up. It should say something about your iPencil is connected, but nothing happens. I connect it and nothing happens. It can't be the cable. I've tried 2 cables. So anyway, yeah. I mean, let's keep trying to solve this problem as we go along here. If anybody has any more ideas, I guess there's no restart button on the Apple Pencil. There's no way to kind of restart it in some way so that you know, a factory setting or something that will happen. I have no idea. All right, Michael, did you see the interview with Alice Weide, the head of Germany's AfD, and Elon Musk? She said Hitler was a socialist. It's a scandal. He was labeled as right-wing. She said the AfD is a conservative libertarian party. Yeah, I mean, she can say a lot of things. That doesn't make them true. Yes, Hitler was a socialist. That's true. But the reality is that she tolerates members of her own political party using and engaging in pro-Nazi activities and speech, and she does nothing about it. The one member of a party that has expressed real solidarity with the Nazis, she says if she was prime minister, he would be a member of her cabinet. So there's, you know, again, you just because somebody says something doesn't mean anything. She says one thing. She says it's a conservative libertarian party, and yet the last week, all they've done is emphasize how they're friendly to Putin and how they want a great relationship with Putin and how they want a great relationship with Russia. That kind of conservative, I want to have nothing to do with that. So, yeah. And certainly not libertarian. Libertarian maybe in the bad libertarian sense of so many American libertarians. Maybe she's that kind of libertarian. Blake, is it fair to assume most federal employees are unproductive, or does the value many services provide warrant a more nuanced view? And does the, additional disrespect they often receive just? Well, I mean, look, they're doing things, government employees are doing things that are unjustified. They're doing things that would not exist in a free market. And in that sense, they're not productive. That is, they're not advancing productivity. They're not advancing the world. But given the statist nature of our government, somebody's going to work for the IRS. Somebody's going to work for all these government departments. I don't know if the people working in these government departments are bad people, horrible people, people you wouldn't hire in your own company. I don't know. It's possible that they are. But it's very hard to tell, and this is why it needs to be done in a much more thoughtful way. It really needs to be that whoever's doing this goes in, interviews people, looks at their performance evals, and fires them based on a plan. Now, it's true that one of the advantages that Elon Musk has is one of the things that Elon Musk is trying to do is he's trying to do things so quickly that the bureaucracy doesn't have time to respond. And I think that's behind a lot of what he's doing is just go in fast, break things, know it's going to be a mixed bag, but do it fast. Speed is of the essence. That's the most important thing, because if you do it slow, the bureaucracy will fight you and you won't get anything done. Maybe that's true. But if this is the only way to do things, then we just have to accept that not much value, not much good is going to happen. It's not that I feel bad for the government employees. Yeah, you go work for the government, unless you're in defense or at the FBI or something like that. Yeah, your job is pretty much illegitimate. If you land up being treated pretty badly, I don't really care that much about it. But the reality is that as long as we have the government that we have, somebody's going to do those jobs. And now I don't want the IRS to be efficient, but the reality is that the government spends tax money. If it doesn't collect taxes, it's going to borrow or print. One way or another, we're going to pay the price for it. So you want them to be somewhat, competent as you restructure the tax system. I mean, this is my point, and I keep saying this. I'm all for shrinking the IRS significantly. The best way to do that is to simplify the tax code, right? If you simplify the tax code, then then you don't need as many IRS employees. You can fire half of them. Or maybe if you move to a consumption tax, you can fire all of them. You can close the IRS. So again, the size of government, the number of people working for it, who they are, what they are, will ultimately be determined by the kind of government that you want. And to establish the kind of government that you want, you need to think about, or you need to, you need to have a strategy about which government departments to shut down, where to shut down, and how to shrink the government in a strategic way, and that way to limit the damage on Americans and to move us towards liberty as quickly as possible. And it's not clear that is what, it's not clear. It's clear that is not, that what Musk and Trump are doing is not strategic. Now, again, they might believe that this is the only way to do it because if you wait, nothing will happen. But it's not strategic. There's no strategy. And you can see in Congress, there's no leadership in Congress. Trump isn't devoting enough time to Congress to provide leadership. He's not articulating a case. He's not saying to the American people, look, we need to cut Medicaid. There's no choice. I know some people are going to hurt by this. Maybe the states can pick up the slack. I don't know, whatever it is, whatever BS you want to say. But you've got to go out there and advocate for something. And cutting government spending is going to be unpopular among many of the pressure groups that are coming in. So a real leader would go to the American public and go to Congress and say, yes, I realize there's going to be pain to certain groups, but it's inevitable. This is what has to be done. We need to move towards freedom, or we need to move towards economic solvency. Instead, they go and they leave Congress alone, let them do whatever they do, and we're just going to blow stuff up and see what happens. And hopefully the remains actually provide us with a government that functions and is smaller. I just don't see how that works. Yeah, I mean, Paul Ryan, who is demonized today as a rhino, actually called for Medicare reform. He actually had this amazing proposal to voucherize it, to turn it into vouchers, which is something I support completely. And it kind of passed the House when they knew it would never, the Senate, the Democrats controlled the Senate, and that Obama would nix it anyway. So they had the guts to pass it when they knew it wouldn't become law. As soon as Trump came into office, in 2016, they stopped even proposing it. And because Paul Ryan advocated for reforming Medicare and reforming Social Security, he is called a rhino, and he's being basically marginalized within the political party, where he was one of the best people in the Republican Party for many years. A bit of a coward, but generally, one of the best people out there. Richard, question for Elon Musk. Who will read and curate the replies to your emails requesting accomplishments? By what standard strategic approach needs follow through? It could be that he has AI doing it. I mean, that would be my expectation, that the AI reads through them. And the point is that he should, he said that actually what they write is not going to be the standard by which they get fired. It's the fact that they write would keep them their jobs. I mean, he hasn't told them, if we decide what you did last week was unproductive, you're fired. That hasn't even happened. He hasn't even said that, which is kind of bizarre. You'd think he would have said that. Wes, thank you. Really appreciate the support. Thanks. That is terrific. All right, let's see. Hopper Campbell. Is Russia out of steam even if they defeat Ukraine? Do they have the manpower resources to invade another country? Well, not immediately. For years they won't, but Trump wants to cut all kinds of economic cooperation deals with them. And if the sanctions are lifted and they can use the $300 billion or much more of frozen assets, and if they can start selling oil again into the marketplace, and they can start selling the uranium and the other natural resources, they will make money again, and they will go out there and find the soldiers and troops in order to pose a threat. Again, to take Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania, particularly Estonia, it's not going to take much. So they don't need a huge amount. And in the meantime, getting a puppet regime into Kiev is not going to be that difficult. So he can do a lot of damage in meantime while he spends the next, let's say, even decade building up a military, right? So they are out of steam, which should bode well for the Ukrainians, but it doesn't mean they cannot continue to create havoc within Europe. They also have nukes, which Europeans don't have much of. And the United States might be withdrawing their support of, if you will. Liam, what's the worst you've ever triggered someone at a talk or a Q&A? Oh, I don't know. People have walked out yelling at me. Talks on Israel, talks on capitalism. I've had communists yelling at me. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of examples, plus my memory sucks, so I can't remember. But a lot of times people have just got up, yelled something at me, and walked out, right? That's happened quite a bit. Obnoxious questions. Try to attack the stage. Try to shut me down by singing over me so that my voice couldn't be heard. All kinds of stuff like that over the last 20 years, 21, 22 years. That Doodle Bunny, if intellectuals determine the course of the culture, all the established intellectuals in the West today explicitly reject fascism, yet the population is demanding it. How can this be? Because it's not at the level of the intellectuals affect the culture on the particular, but all the intellectuals of the culture are statists. They're all statists, and of one form or another. They're all leftist, or most of the dominant ones are leftist. And what is fascism? Fascism is socialism wrapped up in a flag. So it's not a rejection of socialism. So they embrace the intellectuals. But the most primitive form of collectivism Ayn Rand taught us is tribalism, is in a sense flag worship, racism and tribalism. So they take the intellectuals, they take socialism from the intellectuals, and then they gravitate towards the most primitive form out there because the masses, because of the intellectuals, have given up on thinking. They've also reject kind of the social stuff of the socialists, the woke nonsense. That they won't tolerate. And they combine their conservative social attitudes with socialism, and what you get is fascism. That is exactly what fascism is, right? So that's exactly what we get. So it's not like it's not like, Lenin Peikoff claims that, and Ayn Rand claimed, that Hitler was a product of Kant. But it's not that Kant was a Nazi, and you say, well, how could Hitler be a product from Kant? Kant wasn't a Nazi. It's the ideas that Kant proposed led to, ultimately, the Nazis. And I would add the communists and every other awful ideology of the 20th century. James, one good thing Elon Musk is doing is shifting the culture's attitude towards government employees. These people are public servants, not royalty. Yes, but is he? Is he? Musk's popularity has declined. Trump's popularity has declined. I'm not sure he's capturing anybody's sympathy with regard to or hostility with regard to government employees. I don't see that happening. It's happening among right-wing circles. So if you're just on Twitter, on Twitter everybody hates government employees, but they were probably with Trump. They were probably with Musk all along. So I'm not seeing him actually do that. Him actually sway the culture, right? There's a certain vibe shift against woke and against DEI that they've achieved. That has happened. And that's a lot because of the intellectuals of the right have been working on this for a number of years, and Trump is capitalized on that. But I'm not seeing Musk rally people around shutting down departments and firing people. I just don't see that. Not your average algorithm. Do inferiority complexes and frustrations compound over time, like the stock market, to where finally people must lash out and start goose stepping? Yeah, I mean, it's not a must. People can have free will. They can control it. They can deal with it. But yes, fear, anger, combined with low self-esteem, are a recipe for authoritarianism and a recipe for emotionalism. And that's what we're seeing. Not your average algorithm. Do people with no pride or self-esteem resent a philosopher like Rand who promotes them as the ideal? No, promotes the opposite as the ideal. She triggers flaws in people who don't want to have to face their shortcomings. Yes, I think psychologically, many people find Ayn Rand very difficult because they have to face the fact that they're not heroes, or if they're good in some field, they're not in others. And the later in life you read her, the more your character's already formed, the more who you are is already formed, and the more difficult it is to face who you are and who you become. She really challenges that. There has to be some base of self-esteem, of independence, of self-confidence, just to embrace Ayn Rand's ideas, just to give them a fair treatment, if you will. Clark. How can smart people be clueless? They seem to have the most horsepower to sustain evading reality for an entire career. Evading reality is not an issue of horsepower. You can find people with very low IQs who never evade reality. Evading reality is an issue of on-off. It's an on-off kind of thing, yes or no. I'm committed to reality, I'm not committed to reality. It's not an issue of, if I put more brain power in it, I'll be more committed to reality. So it's not an issue of smarts at all. It's an issue of, it's an issue of turning on your mind, and then it's an issue of honesty and being willing to be honest. And again, that's not an issue of IQ. Not your average algorithm. Do some of Rand's universal claims about human beings not apply to certain outliers like extreme narcissists and psychopaths? It might be that some people are born with some defect in their brain and therefore it doesn't work on them, and that's possible. And those people, like psychopaths, need to be, if they act on it, need to be separated from society. That's what jails are for. So it could be that there's something biological in some people that makes them different than what I'd consider a standard rational human being. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that genes matter that much. I don't know if these are inherited traits or not, but it could be. And if that's the case, they're outliers and they should be treated as such. I mean, again, they have to act on it. Just being jerks is not enough. Liam, is it realistic to expect someone living on welfare their entire life, who's never had a job, to ever become self-sufficient? I mean, it depends on what their entire life constitutes and how long that is. But yeah, the older they get, the more difficult it would be, or in some cases, maybe you could argue it's impossible. But I don't think it's impossible. I think anybody can actually go out there and work, particularly if the alternative to that is starvation. Then they learn how to work. They figure it out, because otherwise they die. If welfare went away tomorrow, would people survive? Most of them would. Some would shrivel and die. Most would survive. But this is one of the reasons why I support phasing it out, making it clear it's going away, but not doing it all at once, spending 4 years to phase out welfare, phase out food stamps, phase out these things so that people can develop strategies, and older people have more time to do it. Younger people hopefully go off of welfare faster. Michael, leftists argue the welfare state removes stress and uncertainty from life. But having no purpose when you wake up every morning is extremely stressful and depressing. Yes. This is the Garden of Eden fallacy. The Garden of Eden fallacy is the idea that the ideal human life was in the Garden of Eden, when we had nothing to worry about, no purpose, nothing to do, just sat around and we ate the fruit and whatever was there in the Garden of Eden. And that passive lifestyle is the ideal. That is, a lot of people believe that, not just leftists. A lot of people pine for the Garden of Eden. I reject the Garden of Eden. I think the Garden of Eden analogy is very, very damaging and harmful to human beings. The fact is, the productive work is what gives, to a large extent, what gives you purpose and what sustains you and what drives you and should be embraced. And that's what you got when God kicked us out of the Garden of Eden. And we got it because we dared to bite from the tree of knowledge, which is basically we dared to take on reason. Once you adopt reason, you have to reject the Garden of Eden. So the Garden of Eden myth is a really, really bad. I talked about this in an interview that I did a few days ago. I will post that interview on Thursday. Thursday, we will post that interview. It was a good interview, and I shocked the interviewers by some of the things I said and how anti-Trump I was and how anti a lot of things I was. So it's worth watching just to see. But yeah, you should definitely check it out. And I did go into this Garden of Eden myth stuff and many other things. That's on Thursday. There will be no show on Thursday. There might not be a show on Wednesday. I don't know if you need all the details, but I have a colonoscopy on Thursday. And Wednesday is prep for the colonoscopy, which is like the worst thing in the world. I mean, not the worst thing in the world, but really, really bad. And it wipes you out, and it's not pleasant, and I have to teach. And anyway, yeah, Wanda Freeman says enjoy. Yeah, right. There's nothing enjoyable. Nothing. All right, Hopper Campbell, can you react to that 60 Minutes segment talking to 3 German prosecutors about how they police the internet? Truly dystopian and disgusting. Yeah, I need to look for that and find it so I can comment on it. But yes, it must be particularly dystopian and upsetting when they say all these things with a German accent or in German. That is particularly bad. Christos, do you think there is a possibility that there may be a military confrontation with Europe as U.S. seems now to be more allied with Russia? What if Europe and Ukraine reject Trump? No, I don't think Trump is going to get into a military confrontation with Europe. That would be too much. I don't think he wants it, and I don't think he cares that much. No, it would just be the U.S. walking away from Europe, leaving NATO, retreating its troops, supposedly. Now, this is a rumor. I haven't verified this. There's a rumor out there that the United States is shuttering its base in Greece because Trump was asked to do that by both Putin and Erdogan. Erdogan, of course, is an enemy of Greece. And Greece, Turkey have fought quite a few wars. Of course, Greece was part of Turkey, part of the Ottoman Empire for a long time. And Erdogan and Putin ask Trump, and 2 dictators asking Trump, he can't say no. He just can't say no. So they're closing the base in Greece. Again, I'm not sure that's true, but that is the rumor. Graham Sin-Godal says, reading Atlas Shrugged for the first time, very exciting. Very excited. Absolutely. I'm jealous. Reading Atlas Shrugged for the first time is such a pleasure. It's such a earth-shattering event. Kimski, thank you for your super chat. First super chat ever for Kimski. Thank you. I saw some other stickers. Wes, I thank. Thank you, Wes, again. Ian, Gail, Tom, thank you for the super chat. Last question. So Bricks and Cole, Trump's base is low income, non-college educated whites. Do you think they will turn on Elon when he hits the government entitlement programs? Yeah, I think they will. I think they might have already done so. I'm not sure how supportive they are of what Elon is doing even right now. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And again, I still predict that the Elon Musk, Donald Trump combo will not last a year. I might be wrong. Other people think it's going to. We'll see. Primarily, to some extent, because of that, Trump will get a lot of backlash from his base for having Elon doing all the things that Elon is doing. All right, guys, I need to run. I need to figure out this iPencil. I'm updating my iPad software. Maybe that'll make a difference. So I'm updating the software. I'm charging the pencil. I'm trying to get the pencil charged up, and hopefully all of that together will actually get this pencil to work. It would be very, very disappointing if it arrived on time. It got here this morning, which is amazing. And yet, if it turns out that they send me a dud, Apple usually does not send me a dud. So maybe updating the software will get this all working. We'll see. Thank you. I'll let you know about the pencil tomorrow. Show tomorrow, I think 2 p.m. East Coast time, regular time. And again, Wednesday, probably no show. Thursday, certainly no show. And then Friday will be on. Don't forget, like the show before you leave. YouTube really, really values likes. And when you don't like the show, when we don't get a lot of likes, it doesn't promote the show. It doesn't get, the algorithm doesn't like me. So in order for the algorithm to like me, you have to do something. And it's easy and it's cheap and it doesn't cost you anything. Press that like button. And if you can, comment on the show after the fact and participate in the chat. And but like the show. And of course, the best thing you can do is share the show, share with other people. But sharing is a commitment. Liking requires nothing. Zilch, nada. Just do it. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.